Today, I've got a story to share with you. And I don't think that it's a very complex or complicated story. We just need to be open to the magic of it. Today's talk is called Out of the Mouths of Babes. I'm sure we've all heard that. There's an old proverb that says, with amazement or amusement, when observing something really special with a young soul, out of the mouths of babes. And we say that when we encounter a certain wisdom offered up by a little child. Earlier this week, I went to dinner at my favorite local Mexican restaurant, very near to my apartment. It was early evening, just about dusk. The place, as usual, was crowded and a bit noisy. I sat down and settled into my chair and table, glanced over the menu, then placed my order for a carnitas dinner. Same thing I always order. Sometimes it feels like I live a pretty boring life. Glancing over to the table across the aisle from me, I caught the eye and the attention of a little girl. Two, no more than three, who was staring me down in a good way. Blonde hair, sky blue jumper, sitting at the end of the table in a high chair, and the prettiest smile of childhood innocence. She knows, or who knows, maybe it was a soul connection. And there we sat, no words spoken, just sitting and smiling at each other, and both of us feeling rather giggly. My dinner arrived, carried by my favorite server. She's always so kind to me, even to the point of anticipating what I will order. I settled in and I focused on my dinner, occasionally checking the news, what's new on Facebook, looking at the oncoming or upcoming weather forecast, scrolling, scrolling. Then I sensed movement from the little girl's table. The family was leaving. Mom and Dad and two precious daughters. Now, mind you, I had already planned, given the opportunity, to speak to the parents. It took a moment for Mom to remove my new friend from her high chair. She was still smiling as I told her mother what a precious daughter she had, how she had blessed my day, made my day, and expressing gratitude for that brief encounter. I had not realized until then that there were actually two daughters, as the older one sat next to her dad on the inside of the booth to Dad's right. I quickly realized that the older one was a bit shy, shadowing behind her dad. I spoke to both parents as they were leaving, compliments of how lovely their children were and what a beautiful family they have. And the sky blue jumper one just made my day. We turned and walked away, sky blue holding tight to her mother's hand. Then Sky Blue paused and turned around and started waving to me. Bye bye, bye bye. I have to admit, I was beginning to lose it right now. And then Sky Blue did something I could have never imagined. He started blowing kisses towards me. And that was the epitome of magic and miracles. Waves of absolute joy overflowed me. A pure and innocent love shared between old souls who were strangers when I first walked in. Chills rolled over me, filling this old man's eyes with tears, tears of joy. I'm serious, it was almost overwhelming. I had to take a knee on that one. Yes, out of the mouths of babes is indeed true, and I have just experienced the magic of it. Trembling voice, thank you, my Creator. I whispered through the lens of tears. It would have been tragic if I had ignored the expression of gratitude and the acknowledgement of Creator's loving hand that reached through the universe and touched my heart and my soul. After all, I've come to realize that is part of the magic, gratitude. I have not stopped thinking about that intimate encounter. I doubt I ever will. So I returned to my supper, my infatuation with my phone, to check the latest news, surrounding myself with the poison of the latest updates, news of war, news of violence, and dynamic opposition within our own homeland, government, and among our own neighbors. Like perhaps the way that our ancestors faced the realities of war, wars amongst each other, neighboring tribes, in the United States. We all know that fires are burning across our sacred mother, the earth. But I stopped myself from giving much more thought to that negative energy. For while we cannot shield ourselves from the harsh realities of the now, we can at least shield ourselves from the affection of its energy. My thoughts returned to sky blue, how happy she was, and how fortunate she was and is to not know. She knows nothing about world events, local or national news, nothing at all between mommy and daddy and big sister. Sometimes I wish I didn't know either. Sky blue is in what I consider her ether years. She's not yet forgotten what God looks like, what he feels like, how he sounds, or how he smells. She still remembers the Great Spirit from whence she came and began her own unique journeyway here on our mother's breast, sitting next to me at Senior Tequila. He still recognizes that still small voice of Source, the very Source that breathed life into her not too very long ago. I suppose it is easy, maybe even natural, and it probably will happen as we age and progress along our journeyways to forget, to not remember. We can't recall how God looks like, how he feels, how he sounds, even how he smells. As we walk along the good red road, we sometimes forget. I suppose maybe that's just a process of growing up and now for me, growing old. But we find a place and a juncture in our lives that wakes us up and calls us to remember. Homecoming of sorts. And the old ones sang enthusiastically, what a day, what a glorious day that will be. The road towards that homecoming must involve and engage a few stops along the way. We have to come to a place where within our prayer life, and meditation becomes a thing that is natural as walking and breathing. For it is prayer that is the heartbeat that connects us with Creator and opens a sacred space in which we can run with the Great Spirit. Creator of all things and spaces, and in a universe that moves as if by design. The road home brings us to people and places. Here, those who desire to live in peace, together in community and fellowship, such as our seventh generation family. For it is in fellowship and community that we grow spiritually, and we strengthen one another and lift up and stand in support of our neighbors. Community creates bonds of a sacred intimacy amongst and within fellowship That is which is so essential to our grounding, returning, and remembering. We can remind each other of our own memories of God, and we can remind ourselves now how the voice of Creator sounds and looks like. We remember in ceremony, for it is in ceremony that a sacred space opens and connects us to the presence of Creator. Ceremony opens our hearts to give honor to Creator and to our neighbors and relatives as well. In ceremony, we strengthen our trust. Trust among ourselves and trust of the Great Spirit above. We begin to wake up and we begin to remember. Remember who we are and what is our sole purpose all about and how we fit into the sacred web of all that is. We especially remember who God is. And it is with and in ceremony that we silence our minds, slow our thoughts, and open ourselves to the heart of the presence of all that is and will forever be. These are the things that will bring us back to where we came. These are teachings that will enable us to experience and live life in a good way. The good way being that divine energy that seeks and serves the highest and best good of all people, of all nations. These are the things that will help us remember, and within that space, we will find joy. I have to tell you, I learned a lot from Sky Blue Jumper Girl that night. I just slid into a place that was full of magic and miracles. Her kindness filled my spirit and filled me with a joy that I do not hold and too soon forget. She reminded me to remember, and what a blessing that truly was. There are things, there are moments, and there are people we encounter along our journey that change us somehow. And this was one of those moments for me. She reminded me of what a life, a joyful life, even in the midst of trouble and disturbing news. In the space of her energy, I was most appreciative of that gentle reminder. A reminder that flowed so innocently through her. My heart was most grateful, Sky Blue. She reminded me to acknowledge people, even strangers, with an open mind and an open heart, as she had done for me. An old man sitting alone, eating a carnitas dinner. She encouraged my prayer. She opened herself in the presence of community and fellowship. And there and then we shared ceremony together. all a gentle pull to remember. I recalled a piece of prose I had stumbled upon recently, which says every soul that you pass is fighting a ghost that you cannot see. So do not add to the noise of their world. Be the silence in which they can breathe. Kindness is the ultimate recognition of our shared nature and soul. And in that recognition, Sky Blue's kindness touched me deeply. Her lesson to me was to be more kind, more considerate, more open to giving and receiving love, and experience the absolute joy of just being in that sacred space, together in fellowship. A gentle reminder of who God is. And I was very grateful for that. The encounter lifted my spirit and left behind her innocent wisdom. And I walked away a better man, glowing with joy. Yes, out of the mouths of babes, out of their mouths and behavior comes great wisdom. If our hearts are open, if we are paying attention to those in the world around us. I don't know about you, but I don't want to miss a thing. I hope. We have 4 major plant sources that we use during our prayer time and our ceremonies. The first is the tobacco. And we have a tobacco bowl. Now, tobacco was a gift that was brought to the people many years ago by Buffalo Cap Woman. She came and taught us how to pray. And for indigenous people, the tobacco is looked at as that vehicle that will move our prayers from our heart and find the heart and the ears of Creator. We have several bowls on our altar. As tobacco, again, is our vehicle to pray and share with God, the first thing we want to do is make sure that our spirit is pure. This is why we have the coal in this pot. We take a pinch of tobacco, think a moment about what we may need to be released of today, what we no longer wish to carry. And we place that into the letting go bowl. We have the essence of floor water, which is a beautiful fragrance. It grounds us and connects us to the sacred Mother Earth. Some of the other herbs that we use at the altar is sage, sweetgrass, and cedar. Sage is that which we acknowledge has a power. It's wakamness, which means its powerfulness. Cleanse and releases any negative energy, any negative activity, any harshness. any anger. It just takes it away and creates a very sacred and special circle around ourselves. Cedar is used as that which once we have cleaned, shed ourselves of those things that don't serve us well no more. And then cedar closes that circle around us. And sweetgrass creates a barrier around us that protects us and resists those things that are not good for our soul. And then we use tobacco in making prayer ties. I think all of you may be familiar with prayer ties. You see, we move from grounding ourselves to releasing, to taking tobacco, and through hope, come to make a new prayer for ourselves. We simply take a piece of the scarlet cloth, a pinch of tobacco, and then tie it to a little pouch such as this. Now, what we do through the years is we collect these prayer ties. We had a beautiful opportunity not long ago to meet up with a venerable monk just down the road. And I had our people focus our prayer on them and their journey and protection and safety along their way to Washington, hopeful that I would have an opportunity when I got there to share them with them. And that opportunity came when one of the monks came by to give me the peace bracelet, reached into my pocket and took out a handful of prayer ties, told him who we were and what we had done, and these are our gifts to them. I watched the man put them in his pocket. I suppose they're still somewhere holding the energy and the space that we came to offer. Of course, there are hawk wings here. We use those as feather fans to brush ourselves with the sage. Many of the attunements on the altar are just symbolic images, powerful stones like the quartz, the two that are on the back of the table that were brought to us by Julia and her husband from the Crazy Horse Memorial, artifacts that reminds us of our connection with our ancestors. So I invite you now to come to our altar and please enjoy and experience this time of prayer together.